What is happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Hear the Spear, presented to you by Knoll Game Day. We are here on Selection Sunday. Usually it's Thursday nights, but we are here because the bracket has just now been released just about an hour ago. Florida State now knows its fate. We are going to discuss that. Not going to be a long podcast here for you guys, but we're going to give our instant reaction between me, Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer, and down below, Dustin Lewis, our lead writer and editor. It was not so fun of a night last night when Florida State lost in the ACC championship, but it is a new week. A new March Madness begins now. Florida State is a number 4 seed. They'll be facing UNC Greensboro, who went 21-8. And Florida State has maybe some. They feel good about their region. They're in the East region. Michigan's the number 1 seed. Austin, instant reaction feeling to this. What are you feeling? Is this nice?
Instant, first reaction, not knowing anything about the teams at first, really liked it. I didn't want to play Gonzaga. I didn't want to be in Gonzaga region again. I didn't want to be in the Baylor region. And then some of the other teams I didn't want to play were Winthrop, Texas Tech, and Abilene Christian. And you don't have to worry about any of those. You start with the UNC Greensboro. They're not your usual mid-major. Usually with these mid-majors, you're used to teams that can shoot the three well. They're really fast tempo. They really try and get you in mismatches. It's the complete opposite with Greensboro. They slow the pace down. They're about average in tempo. Bad offense, really. They're one of the worst teams in the country at getting to the free throw line, which is something when FSU loses, it's because the other team gets to the free throw line a ton and FSU turns it over a ton. That's the one thing Greensboro can do well. They can turn other teams over. They average about 16 points per game off of turnovers. But outside of that, if FSU can find a way to limit those better than they did in the ACC tournament, they really like their chances in this game.
Yeah, like you said, Austin. Not a very impressive offense at first look. They don't have any, I believe, any shooter on the roster shooting over 40% from 3 point. I think it was only one double-digit score on the entire roster. They do play a bigger rotation. I wonder if that's one thing where they'll be able to match up with Florida State. Obviously, I don't think they're going to have the talent in their rotation like Florida State does. So I don't know. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, like you mentioned with shooting, their best 3-point shooter shoots 33.9% from three. They've only got one guy in double digit scoring, Isaiah Miller. He's a bucket, almost 20 points per game, but everyone else is 10 and under. And when you only have one guy that you have to cut off and that's their offense, I think you feel pretty good if you're Florida State. You really have to like your chances. Even when they get to the free throw line, they don't shoot it well there. They're only about a 68% free throw shooting team. Florida State just has to find a way to limit their turnovers. That's it.
Yeah, one player on the roster shooting over 80% from the line, and that player's only taken 21 free throws all season. So, the guys that have substantial minutes, substantial shots, they look like a mediocre offensive team, and I think that plays into Florida State's advantage with the size they have on defense and just how locked in they can get when they're actually focused, and that's going to be a big thing next week.
And with their defense, you know, UNC Greensboro, they're
Really
67th
focused,
in
and that's going to
efficiency.
be a
They're 60th in forced turnovers. And then in transition, they're one of the best transition teams in the country, not just offensively, but defensively. We've already talked about what they can do off of turnovers, but defensively, they allow just 0.9 points per possession, which is top 80, which is in the 85th percentile. That's a really good transition defense. That's an impressive number. Um, and Florida State wants to get out in transition. That's going to be one thing Florida State has to keep an eye on. The transition game in this game in particular is going to be huge.
And obviously, the biggest thing for Florida State when you start to move into this game is the one glaring issue that stood out this weekend and the last couple games. Florida State has averaged 14, or they've given up 14 straight turnovers in 5 straight games, 18 turnovers on Friday night against UNC, and then a season high 25 yesterday against Georgia Tech. So, really, it feels like if this team can cut back down on those turnovers like they were whenever they came out of the COVID break earlier this year, they could start to get back into that same rhythm they had a couple weeks ago. But again, it just comes down to them being focused, not making the mental errors. A lot of the turnovers that we saw yesterday, in my opinion, were just unforced, dumb passes, throwing it out of bounds, throwing it to the wrong guy, just mental mistakes. And I mean, they've got to cut it down.
And you're not going to be playing Jose Alvarado again, who apparently is not allowed to get fouls called on him when he reaches in. Georgia Tech's is a very opportunistic defense. They're gonna rip the ball away. They're gonna poke it away. They're gonna do whatever they can to keep the ball from going up. Because we saw last night when Florida State was getting shots up, they were making them. I mean, 50% from the floor, 50% from three. It's just there's so many turnovers, and yeah, Florida State's gonna have to calm that down. And Isaiah Miller, UNC Greensboro's leading scorer, also averages 2+ steals a game, very similar to Alvarado. He's not as annoying as Alvarado. I don't think anybody can be, but you really have to like your chances here if you're Florida State. To me, the biggest thing is you gotta get up and play. We've seen this team kind of lose their focus these last 2 or 3 weeks. I think if they lock down and say, "Hey, we got 6 games. Let's go make it a good 6 games," I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about going a little bit into a slump, obviously, one of the leaders on this team, senior MJ Walker, had arguably the worst game of his career yesterday, turning the ball over a career high 8 times. And then Raekwon Gray as well. He only had 8 points in each of Florida State's ACC tournament games. So they're going to need a lot more production out of those guys, as they move into March Madness.
With Turk, they just have to play him. I get he had 2 fouls last night. He only ended up playing, I think, 21 minutes off the top of my head. You got to play him. He's too important, not just to this offense, but to the defense. He's got to be out there. You got to have trust in a guy like that because he's just so important to this team. And his secondary creation, his secondary distributing, it's so important. And it's such a mismatch because UNC Greensboro doesn't have a guy that can guard him. Just go let Turk be Turk. Let him play.
I think Eric here from Facebook said Seth Davis picked Florida State to upset Michigan and get to the Elite Eight. I guess was on the show just a little bit ago.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said if Florida State gets to that matchup with Michigan, he's going to pick Florida State right now, especially with how banged up Michigan has been lately.
Yeah, they just lost their best player, Isaiah Livers, to a foot fracture. I think he's going to be out for the tournament. So if you get to that Michigan game, you really like your chances. Really, the entire bracket sets up really well. Colorado and Georgetown, they don't scare me. They both play in bad conferences. Like Colorado lost to Oregon State in the Pac-12 championship. I don't trust them. Georgetown plays in the Big East. I don't trust them. The Big East has been horrible this year. Both of those teams, they can shoot the three well. They're solid in both offense and defense, but they don't scare me. Really, with Colorado, their biggest thing is they're really good in pick and rolls. And with FSU's heavy switching scheme, it could either be really beneficial for Florida State or it could be really dangerous. Really just depends. It's either one or the other against these really efficient pick and roll teams. But if you get to that second weekend and you're playing either Michigan or, in my opinion, LSU, you have to like your chances with either of those games, especially Michigan without Isaiah Livers.
Revenge tour for FSU, possibly, if they come to play.
If we come to play, I certainly haven't forgotten the Michigan game. I'm trying to remember who was on that team that year that's still there. MJ, Turk was there, Wyatt was there. That honestly might be it.
Seems so long ago.
Polite was there too. So there's only 4 or 5 guys that were still on that team, and obviously the walk-ons. But I'm certain they haven't forgotten about that game. They were 4 points away from a Final Four. Just a couple of plays, just a couple more shots. They want that Michigan rematch. I guarantee you they do.
I was going to ask you, who do you think out of not even just in the region for Florida State, but overall, not counting Gonzaga, but which teams are hot right now that might make a run that maybe some people aren't thinking of?
I mean, I've talked about Winthrop so much. They got such a good draw with their first game being against Villanova. And Villanova doesn't have Colin Gillespie anymore. I'm taking Winthrop in that game. Then they play the winner of Purdue, North Texas. I think Winthrop can easily beat either of those two teams. UNC, I think that second game against Baylor, that's going to be a fun one to watch. It wouldn't surprise me if UNC made it to the Sweet 16 this year just because I think that's a good matchup for them. And then one more team I'm really looking forward to watching. Abilene Christian, the 14 seed in our region. They go up against Texas. I think that's gonna be a really fun game, and it would not surprise me at all if Abilene Christian came out in that game.
See now, all these teams. I don't know if Dustin watches them. I don't watch them, so whenever it comes down to March Madness and we start talking about them, I've got to really start doing my homework. I really got to get my homework going.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up two teams, two higher ranked teams. One of them, obviously, first seed Illinois, who I've really been paying a little bit of attention to
Yeah,
throughout
that's
the
a good team.
entire college basketball season. I actually made some money off of them early on because I don't think people were thinking they were going to be this good. And then also Oklahoma State. I mean, Cade Cunningham is ridiculous. And I mean, if the bracket plays out how I think it will, you're going to see Illinois and Oklahoma State match up, and I believe it's a Sweet 16. And man, that's going to be a game.
That entire first half of that Midwest region, with Illinois, Loyola Chicago, Georgia Tech, and Oklahoma State, even Liberty as a 13 seed. There's a lot of dangerous teams sitting in that top half of the Midwest region. I'm glad
You
we're
got
not in that
Georgia,
region.
you got Georgia Tech and Loyola Chicago sitting there as well. Two teams that have been hot recently.
It's gonna be the most boring game of all
Were
time.
you surprised that Georgia Tech, wins the ACC championship and then gets a 9 seed?
Kind of. I was talking to one of my cousins is a Georgia Tech student, and we were talking last night after the game. I'm like, I think y'all be like a 7 seed. To see them as a 9 is a little disappointing, especially when Clemson's a 7, right? If I remember. Yeah, Clemson's a 7 in that
Yep.
same region.
Yeah.
How is Clemson a 7 seed? Honestly,
They should have
have-
flip flopped.
yeah, they have one good win against us, and then have hardly beaten anyone else. Whereas Georgia Tech, they've beaten us twice. Should have beaten Virginia. Really, with Georgia Tech, if they don't lose those first 2 games to Georgia State and Mercer to begin the season, the 2 days surrounding Thanksgiving, they're probably like a 5 or 6 seed right now.
I'm ready to go dancing. I don't know
I
about
am
y'all.
too.
I don't know about y'all, but hearing that CBS music, we put it up on our Twitter. There's just nothing like it. And so now Florida State is. Have you heard of anybody dealing with the kind of injuries? They'll have a week here to recover before they get going. But is there anybody that you've heard? Does there seem like this team is kind of fully healthy heading into Saturday?
Balsha hurt his thumb blocking a shot last night on a Moses Wright dunk. And he's still going to play. It's not going to affect him that much. MJ's still dealing with whatever he's dealing with. You can tell he's not 100%.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what it is. He was wearing a knee brace for about a month. He just took it off for the tournament. He had an ankle injury in the middle of February, so it could be that. He's just clearly not playing at 100%, but everybody else seems healthy. Now, whether they're playing well, that's a different story, but
I mean,
they should be mostly healthy.
yeah, and obviously you saw Scotty come up with that leg injury against North Carolina, and he still played yesterday. But to me, it looked like he was limping a little bit. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Did y'all see the video of him walking into the arena? He was limping bad.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And I think it was against North Carolina as well, but I think Polite tweaked his ankle. That just might be something to monitor. I mean, obviously he played yesterday.
He looked fine. He was pretty good yesterday. Honestly,
Mhm.
he was much better than the Carolina game where he had, what was it, 4 turnovers. He was pretty good last night.
That 3 was nice.
And Balsha, he already had that thumb taped up coming into yesterday's game. So I wonder if, maybe that's something that's been bothering him for a little bit. And that play yesterday just aggravated it even more. But, luckily for Florida State, they get these next, 4, 5, 6 days to really recover before going into this game against UNC Greensboro. And then hopefully they're able to handle them, with some relative ease to get some guys even more of a break before their next game on Monday.
Yeah, you would really hope so. And can we talk about how stupid it is that it's not Thursday, Friday this year? Why are we starting on a Friday? Why do we have to have games on a Monday? What are we
It's
doing?
weird, right?
What are we doing here?
So what's going on? Sorry.
So usually the tournament starts on Thursday. Like the first 4 is played on Tuesday, and then the main tournament starts on Thursday. This year the first 4 is on Thursday, and the main tournament starts on Friday. So the first round's Friday, Saturday, and the second round's Sunday, Monday.
So that's really going to hinder my.
It gives people something to look forward to on Mondays. I mean, normally those are the worst days of the week, and now you get to come home to some basketball. I mean, you might actually be able to wake up at 8 a.m. on Monday.
Yeah, but it's
Wow.
like I liked our schedule. Why we got to mess it up?
Dustin, the world doesn't revolve around you.
I know, but it's working out perfectly. That's all I'm saying.
I meant to say Austin. I'm sorry, Dustin, but I guess your name just came to me first. But
Yeah,
also, the
one-
world
one
doesn't
letter
revolve.
difference.
Yeah, it doesn't revolve around you either. So
I mean, but luckily FSU is 2-0 on Mondays this year. So, and both of those Monday games were pretty big wins. You know,
I'm
it's
just
the win at Louisville by what was it, 19, and then home against Virginia by 21.
true. I'm just I'm just worried about it affecting my happy hour on Friday, Austin.
That's not my concern.
Are you gonna be peeled? Like, what are you telling your boss? Like, hey,
I'm just taking the days off that Florida State plays,
yeah,
and then I'll watch the rest of the games on my phone. I'll just work the counter.
true. Yeah, no, we got to figure out our schedule for recording and all that. We'll do that after this, but yeah, we don't have a time. We don't have a time yet, but we do. So I think Eric here on Facebook is saying I believe they'll be announced on Tuesday. I don't know if it'll take that long. You think it'll take that long? Or maybe.
It's the NCAA. We may not know until Thursday.
Wow.
The NCAA doesn't do anything on time.
When does
They're still trying to figure out this Oklahoma State appeal.
True. When is the team? Do you know when the team's planning on traveling?
I know they have to be there a certain day. I think they have to be there on Tuesday. It's either Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah, and we
Probably
don't
Wednesday.
know yet the venue because I know they were saying over the broadcast that the majority of teams will be playing right there in Indy, but there's some outside.
Yes, there's so many colleges like right inside Indy. Like you have Butler, Indiana's an hour away in Bloomington. Purdue's right there. I don't know the exact venue, but everything's gonna be in Indy. It's gonna be much easier than in the past.
Mhm.
And I kind of like that it's in Indy because what are college kids gonna want to do in Indianapolis? There's gonna be no distractions. They're gonna be able to go out and play basketball.
Yeah. No. I just wonder, I saw all across Twitter last night and it popped up in my head multiple times, just like what this team can be so hot sometimes and then the next week look like they just weren't prepared or they have no energy. Like, whenever they were unranked, that's when I think this team was on a ride. But right now, it seems like they have like kind of no motivation. I don't know if that's because of leadership that's lacking. You used to have Trent Forrest on this team, and he brought in a lot of leadership. MJ's not having a great month. What do you think was happening?
The team, it feels exactly like the 2017 team. I don't know how many people remember that team that well, but it was the XRM, John Isaac, Dwayne Bacon year. It's just at home they were so good, just killing everybody. But then they go on the road and lose by 20 to Pitt. Get smoked at Carolina, smoked at Duke, smoked at so many places. Get into March, you lose. I think it was their second game in the ACC tournament to Notre Dame, if I'm remembering right. They just could not win away from home for whatever reason. And this team's kind of similar to that. They've had some better road performances at Pitt, at Miami. They've actually looked like they can win on the road occasionally. And then once we got into the main tournament, it was just a bad matchup against Xavier. It was a really hungry team that was really smartly coached by Chris Mack, and Chris Mack is still paying for it to this day every time he plays Florida State. I think this team's learned from that. And we even learned from it the next season. 2018 we go in, we're barely a 9 seed. It's just scraped in the tournament. We lost 6 of our last 10. That first practice after we found out the bracket was the hardest practice I've ever been a part of. I mean, the coaches killed those guys for 2.5 hours, but it just reset their mindset, reset their focus, and that was the best team we had seen them all season. Hopefully, we see something like that these next couple of days where we hear stories about that was a really hard practice.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They need to
reset their focus. I mean, that Monday practice after we found out the bracket, they did so many sprints that day that it was the hardest in-season practice I've ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah, and the coaches need to have that same kind of mindset this week, I'd say, because I mean, obviously, the last couple of games, Florida State, they haven't been focused. I mean, they've had the chance to capitalize on the opportunities right in front of them, and instead they've, floundered them away. You had the chance to win at Notre Dame, and have your chance to clinch the regular season championship against Boston College. You lose that. You have your chance to win it outright against North Carolina. you lose that game. You somehow beat North Carolina on Friday night, and going into this game against Georgia Tech, I thought Florida State would come out more focused, wanting to win this championship. Instead, it was as sloppy as we've seen them play in a hot minute. So, hopefully that focus that they had earlier in the season. Austin, you brought up those big games that they won against Louisville on the road and obviously the Virginia game at home. And that was the team that we expected to see in big games. I'm just hoping they can find that side of themselves again and, bring it out for however long they can make a run.
I mean, the guys were very upset when they lost last night. I mean, even before they lost, guys were pretty mad. They knew they had an opportunity and just wasted it. Whether they come out with that renewed energy, renewed focus, we'll see on Saturday. But I have faith in this coaching staff. They know what they're doing, even if people don't think so. Just the one thing we got to see Scotty start.
Think so?
Yeah, RaeQuan Evans. I'm not here to bash players. I said this in my article that I posted last night / this morning, whatever time you woke up. In his last 10 games, he's shooting 16% from the floor with 14 total assists and 14 total turnovers. This is not going to get the job done in March. We got to have those first 4 minutes be excellent. We can't come out losing momentum, losing on the scoreboard in these first 4 minutes. Scotty's got to start now.
And I mean, you've been in that locker room, Austin. You've been around those coaches. Do they pay attention to things like that? Do they know when a player has, been on just, a pretty bad cold streak now for weeks, if not months? Are they paying attention to things like that and then thinking about how the lineup should change when guys are, hot, cold?
I mean, they're always thinking about it. The one example that comes to mind the most is PJ Savoy. When he was hitting his shots, he was getting minutes. I mean, we saw it his sophomore and junior seasons that when he's hitting shots, he's in the game. But that senior year, he wasn't shooting the ball as well, and he got pushed out of the rotation. The coaches are obviously aware of it. They have all this in front of them. It's a very smart group. Whether they make the change or not, I don't know. It's just Evans has been playing so poorly these last 10 games that I don't know if it's worth his confidence for the team's benefit.
I think you said it somewhere on Twitter or maybe in the Discord last night, but you mentioned the main problem, I think, with Florida State moving away from Evans and, maybe giving Scotty more minutes is they just don't really have a true point guard.
Yeah.
And whenever Scotty isn't playing up to those aggressive instincts and he's more of a secondary focal point on the court, it just doesn't feel like the ball movement is really there, particularly now with the way that MJ has turned it over the last couple of games. He hasn't, been near as efficient himself. And I don't know. It makes me think that there could be an issue with Florida State's guard play now. They've got to get this figured out against UNC Greensboro.
I would do anything for Caleb Mills to swap jerseys with someone and see if someone notices. We need him so bad right now.
Mm-hmm.
We just need that one true point guard that's it's like what we had with Trent last year that can settle down for possession and say, hey, no, we're doing this. Let's get a basket. Let's get back and play hard defense. The thing with Scotty is he's trying to be that. And to his credit, he's absolutely trying to do it. He just doesn't know how to yet because he's never played point guard. He's pointing people all over the floor, but it's out of the flow of the offense, whereas Trent would do it in the flow of the offense, and it made things look so smooth.
Mm-hmm.
No one is Trent Forrest. No one ever will be. He's one of the 3 best players in program history. But it just shows the difference between a smart, experienced point guard that's been there for 4 years, been there, done that, versus star freshman, as talented as anybody in the country, but is still figuring out the leadership and the experience part of it. If they could get that figured out where he can get things settled down, limit the turnovers, and really they just need to unleash him. They need to say, stop playing so passive. Just get to the rim. No one's stopping you.
No.
I mean, he had 21 points last night. I don't think people realize that. He had 21 last night.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It just
a lot of them came down the stretch too. Yeah.
It just came too late. There can be no more of this. Okay, we're down 6. Scotty, go. No, we're up 6. Scotty, go. Let's make this 10. Let's make this 20.
Florida State opens up, just released, as a 10-point favorite over UNC Greensboro. Does that sound accurate to you? Is that to anybody? Does that seem accurate? Seems pretty high.
I would not take the spread just because it's March.
Yeah.
Um, but like it seems like a reasonable number, honestly. Just first glance, FSU is still 10th in offensive efficiency despite all the turnovers we've had. And if they can take care of the ball, I mean, it could easily be a 20, 25 point game. It really comes down to how well Florida State can take care of the ball.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully, now every time you step on the court, this could be the last time you play a game until next season. I'm hoping
Or even just the
backs
last time you
against.
play a game. If you're MJ Walker or Raekwon Evans, this could be the last time you play at Florida State.
Mhm. So I'm just hoping, backs against the wall, that focus that this team had, it comes back out and they lock down and they show us again what they were doing from that stretch from January to the first week or two of February, whenever they got out of that COVID pause, when they were just killing everybody. And I mean, they've just got to get back to that rhythm one way or another. And that was one thing, I was asking you last night if maybe Florida State peaked too early. That was why I was asking it, because they
Yeah.
need to get back to that caliber of play. That was when they were among the tops in college basketball, and when I thought they could potentially go all the way. Now they're kind of limping into the NCAA tournament, losing 3 out of these last 5 with all these issues. Hopefully they can snap out of it.
I mean, they still absolutely can. The ceiling is just as high as it always has been. It's just I think people are just now realizing the floor is a little bit lower than everyone thought. I've been saying it all year. This team's really high ceiling versus really low floor, and where they land in between, who knows? Right now, we're a little bit closer than the floor than people would like to be, but this team still has Final Four caliber ceiling. They just haven't shown it these last 3 weeks.
True. Any last thoughts? I don't think I've missed anything. We'll most certainly we'll be recording on Thursday, so that's where we'll have a full preview of Florida State versus UNC Greensboro. We'll get some updates on their traveling and everything. Then we should know hopefully by then a time for the game on Saturday. Anything else that maybe worth noting? Really, the thing I'm thinking, like what Austin's been saying and Dustin really is, the good thing, is that Florida State has the talent. Like they're not going to be lacking talent, in this bracket. But sure, really just mental game. If they can get on their mental game like they were earlier in the season, then that's a scary team to watch out for. And that seems like a fix that can be done. Just someone's got to lead. Someone's got to be a leader.
It seems like everyone on the team is posting that Marcus Peters video of saying we're not done yet. We hope not. I want to see y'all play 6 more games, at least 4 more. I want to see us get to a Final Four finally.
And I mean, that's why people are so frustrated, because you've seen the level that this team can play at. And then now you're seeing the dumb mental mistakes that they make. And, if they just cut that out, they could go on a very long run and compete with some of the best talent in college basketball.
And the best news from here on out, you won't have to deal with ACC officials because they won't put the same conference officials on the conference game.
Nice.
So that's the good news.
No Valentine?
No Valentine, no Jamie Lucky.
Oh man.
We can bless the heavens.
God, some things last night. Dustin, you said that your hand was bleeding afterwards. Well, I'm pretty sure I lost my voice yelling at the TV for some of the things that were being called and then not being called on Florida State's side of the ball. Like Barnes would get just annihilated at the rim, but there would not be a call.
I mean, let's set the record straight. Officiating is not why we lost.
No.
But good Lord, this conference is so inept at officiating. It's horrible. How do you have Teddy Valentine officiating the conference championship? He's the worst ref in the league.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
That's why my voice is like this. But I'll be fully ready for Saturday. We'll probably be doing most certainly we'll be doing our live shows always on Thursday nights. You can watch that on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, everywhere. So if you're on YouTube right now, feel free to throw a like on this video. You can hit the subscribe button so then you can be notified. If there's a bell right there on your phone, hit that so then you'll get a notification every time we release an episode. We got a few things from spring football we're talking about lately. We've had a few guests on. We're throwing out some snippets there. Austin and Dustin do a fantastic job of basketball coverage, and this is where the fun begins. March is here, so this is going to be the place you want to be for this whole tournament. Austin is in the know with a lot of things, so definitely appreciate everybody tuning in too. We got some Georgia Tech fans in here, man. got some Georgia Tech fans.
They exist.
I guess so. Basketball ones do.
I don't think that. Nah, they're just troll accounts. There's no way.
They said we're salty.
Not really. I mean, y'all played a solid game. Sure.
That's about the most attention you can give a Georgia Tech fan.
Yeah,
I don't think
like,
I've ever
come on.
talked any trash with a Georgia Tech fan. That's just saying it right there.
No, I mean they earned the victory. You know,
Yeah.
Florida State made.
Well,
way
Florida
a lot
State
more
beat themselves.
mistakes.
Let's be real.
But
Florida
that's
State
that's
beat
what I'm saying.
themselves.
Florida State made more mistakes. Georgia Tech capitalized, and
You're not going to win any games where you turn the ball over 25 times and the other team shoots 28 free throws in the second half. You're not winning any games like that.
after 0 in the first half,
Like, you're not
Mhm.
winning any games like that. FSU beat themselves.
they earned the win.
Georgia Tech didn't do
and
anything. Fight me.
I would rather it be Georgia Tech than North Carolina teams, though. Props to them for
Yeah,
what,
that's
I
true.
think first time since 1996 or
Nine-
was it
19 it's the second time.
93?
No, it was 1990 was the only other time that.
I meant last
they
time
did-
Georgia Tech won because they were showing it last
Oh.
night.
I don't know. I just know 1990 is the only other time that an ACC championship game didn't have a North Carolina school.
Also, shout out Josh Pastner's voicemail.
What was that? I saw people talking about it.
I don't know, dude. I was thinking that was the longest voicemail I've ever heard. Imagine
What,
his
no, like
mom calling him.
what was it? Because I was at the game, so I didn't actually
Don't
hear
give
the
me.
voicemail.
Don't give
It was
me.
just like a very long motivational type speech, and then he just transitions into, "Hey, I'm not here right now. Please leave a message, and I'll get back to you when I can." I was just
Well,
thinking, if his mom called him 3 times, he didn't pick up any of the times, you just have to listen to that whole voicemail. I would be so upset. I mean, dude, it was like a
Well-
minute and a half. I'm not joking. I was listening to it. I didn't even know you could record a voicemail that long.
No one likes Josh Pastner, anyways.
I
so-
thought he was a cool guy when he was saying some nice things about Coach Ham, and
Oh,
then
no,
now
he's
I absolutely hate him because of that voicemail. I mean, it was atrocious.
Also, he had the dirtiest face shield I've ever seen. It doesn't look like they've swapped it out since.
No, he hasn't watched it all. Oh, yeah.
November.
Looks
I
like
mean-
he's like on a grill of a car when you're going through the
Can we get new face
lady
shields?
love bugs.
He needs to get. He needs to get the face mask Coach Gates has. It's still the face mask, but it's clear just right here. He just needs to get that. The face shield doesn't do anything.
They're the silly. They're the funniest things.
At least when Norvell wore it, he still had a regular mask underneath.
My favorite part, they were doing an interview, and he had to put the headset on, so he just straight lifted the face mask up so he could have the microphone by his face.
Yep, sounds about right.
And being one last time from our Georgia Tech fan that's in here, just somehow found us on YouTube. Appreciate you, man. But said we beat y'all in football and basketball. Just wanted to remind us.
I mean, some things don't. I mean, it's
Good
2021.
times.
Oregon State won the Pac-12. Some things happen.
Oh man, I love it. We're reaching the Georgia Tech YouTube. We've made it now. This is
Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
yeah, we'll see you after your first round. Oh man! All right, thanks guys so much for watching. Definitely appreciate you. You can follow us on Twitter at Hear the Spear. The guys' Twitter's handles are below. We will talk to you guys on Thursday night with the whole crew with Nate Greer and Carlos Williams. We'll be there too. So y'all enjoy the rest of the start of y'all's week, and we will see y'all on Thursday night.